Hi guys, I've seen a few discussions regarding sort of the day of cast off and what to expect, and everyone's different in their situation regarding this. But I thought I'd give you our experience. Our little girl was in a cast for 18 weeks, just over, during her hip dysplasia sort of journey. So I wanted to go through a few things, sort of the day of getting her cast off, the first things we noticed, what we expected, the reality, the sort of nighttime routines, a rough timeline on sort of her progressing, and some tips that we sort of learnt along the way, helping her, and anything that can help you with this. So the day of the cast off, obviously a really exciting day for us because we knew that was the end of her journey regarding sort of being in cast. We knew it was the start of recovery now. So when we got to the hospital, we were in the sort of casting room to get sort of the cast off, and straight away we went in there and see all the big machines. Obviously, Darcy didn't enjoy that part. She worked herself up straight away. We got in there because obviously every other operation, anything else she'd had done, she'd been under anaesthetic, so she didn't know it was going on, which is not fun for the parents, but it was made her calm. So straight away the cutting started of the cast. That was it. It was full meltdown mode, which was horrible to see. You're trying to comfort her, but you don't want to get in their way, so you're sort of trying to hold their hands and take their eye away, and doing anything you can to not let her see it, because everything that they see is gonna scare them, because everything looks so scary in a hospital for Todd, especially with the big machines and the sort of grinding away at a cast, and they're trying to keep it as fun as they can. And the people that did look after Darcy during this period, that they were really good and they did what they could, but there's only so much they can do. So straight away the cast come off. She was still in hysterics. We got signed out. Took her down for an X-ray, which obviously worked her up. She'd never had an X-ray really for a long time out of anaesthetic. So it was quite a hard day. From a day where we thought was going to be amazing to a really hard day, and it really stressed her out. Even leaving the hospital, she didn't want to be in the pushchair, or didn't want us to hold her without her cast on. She'd come quite attached to being in a cast. She'd been in it for so long, she didn't really know much difference then. So yeah, trying to get the cast off her was, sort of later on in the day, and we sort of left her strapped to the cast as we went home, even though she didn't need to be. We sat with her and gradually took off the cast and the bandages, and she started to relax a little bit then. So once we got home, the first sort of things we noticed were how skinny her legs were. She'd lost any muscle she did have, even though a toddler's not really muscly. You can still see a massive difference into how skinny her legs were, and pale. They were pasty and sort of sore and really hairy. So you can't wait to get them in the bath because they've not had a bath for so long. But also, you need to make sure you keep that water cool, because their legs are really sensitive. And we were really looking forward to getting her in the bath. It's something she loved before, but she was even scared of that because it was unfamiliar now. It had become normal to be in a cast. What we expected when she come out of cast was, an easy transition into being the way she was before. Get her straight out walking and crawling around. We knew it wasn't going to happen overnight, but we thought it would happen pretty quickly. We were expecting her to bounce back really fast, which, in hindsight she did, but obviously in reality you want it to happen then. You want to have your toddler running back around the house, but it did take a bit of time. So the reality of the movement was, once she had her cast off, she still sat with like a really really wide angle, where obviously that's where her muscles had sort of locked into. So over about a 6-week course, she gradually brought her legs in to the point where you didn't notice, but at first you could really see she was sat there. Her most comfortable position would look like our most uncomfortable because her legs were so wide, and sleeping wasn't too good to start with, because again we had to try and put her in splints at night so she could sleep with them to sort of protect her hips, because when you sleep at night, that's when you're most likely to sort of overstretch. And as a toddler, she started to wriggle. At first, she didn't even move, but as the weeks started going on, she had to spend 6 weeks in night splint. She started to sort of wriggle out of it, and then she would sort of not hurt herself, but you could see she'd fallen asleep in what is a normal, comfortable position for most is still a bit unnormal for them. So she would sort of pull her muscles a little bit, or wake up in a bit of pain where she had cramps. She got cramps a lot to start with, the nighttime was the hardest bit to start with, because even after her surgeries and in cast, it only took a few nights for her to get into a routine of getting back to sleep. But the 6 weeks in the splint, like I said, the first couple of weeks were fine, but as she started to get the strength back in her legs, she did her best to get out of them at night, which then caused her pain. She'd wake up a lot in pain anyway through just pulling her muscles during the day, or overstretching, or just using her legs where she wasn't used to it. So the nighttime were a lot harder in just out of cast. Again, it's something we didn't expect. Rough timeline of stuff, I'd say she took her first steps, I'd say about 4 weeks after, very unstable. I'd say about 3 weeks she started to take little steps with, holding our hands, but not it wasn't too quick, and it took her a bit of time. Even, just having the strength to sit up took a couple of days, because she'd lost all her core strength. So she was, if you sat her on a seat, she couldn't keep herself upright. She would sort of slouch to one side for a long time, and she always slouched to one side, which was worrying to us, thinking that it hadn't quite worked, because she was always slouching. She couldn't sort of sit up straight, but she just didn't have the muscle to do it. She didn't have the strength. Obviously, being a toddler before, they're quite active. She was active, dancing, swimming, so she did have the strength. Then it was like, okay, this is definitely going to take a lot longer than we anticipated. As the days and weeks go on, the strength comes back without even realising. She did start to get back to full swing, I'd say. About 3 months later, she was very active again. She still walked with a limp, which up until the sort of our 3-month checkup after a cast was off, we were worried that it hadn't worked, because she was still walking with the same limp she had before the operations. But once we got to the doctor and he explained that was to do with muscle memory, that's the way she'd always walked. She didn't know any way different to walk. He said it should correct itself. It will correct itself over time. If we had any more concerns, go back and see. But we'd rung up before and said she's still, and he said it before the 12 week, because we were a bit concerned about it, and he said that's absolutely normal. Don't panic. Let her do what she needs to do, and over time it will correct itself. So obviously, again, it was all learning as you go. Even with the cast, everything's learning as you go, and they can only give you the doctor's advice, or the book standard advice, but every journey is going to be a little bit different when you're going through it. So it's just trying to put information out there for people that are going through this, don't know what to expect. Like the message I see today, someone little one has got out of cast, and they were worried that they not up and moving around as much. They're not where they thought they would be, which is you're hoping that they'll be up, and you take the cast off and they'll go bouncing out the room, but in reality this just takes time. So some tips as well that we picked up were giving them time, giving them space, sort of keeping in the same sort of routine as we did in cast. Don't think they're going to go back to swimming and running and jumping. Obviously they're not allowed on trampolines anyway, but you don't think they're going to just be up and around. Just so try and keep that same routine for the first couple of weeks, where you're doing the same thing as if they were in cast. So let them gradually move, let them gradually start exploring again, because they will, it will take over, and before they know it they'll be up and around. Leggings, our little girl, we tried putting on leggings and like sort of jeans, because it was coming into winter, or trousers she couldn't wear them. She still had to wear skirts or really loose clothes, because her hips couldn't bend in enough to be able to put the waistline in and get the legs in. So that was another thing we had to learn pretty quick, that it really hurt her trying to put on trousers, and obviously you didn't want to leave trousers off her because it was cold, but she just couldn't physically pull her legs in close enough to get that on without really hurting her. So yeah, she stayed in sort of dresses and skirts again for a good few weeks until her muscle sort of eased up a bit. Um, and that's it really. There's so many different scenarios to what this could be like and how your journey is going to be. And obviously, if there's anything major, make sure you consult your doctors or whoever you need to, because you can never over worry. And I think that's one thing. Even a year on now, we still worry that she's going to hurt herself. She goes to gymnastics, and we have to sit there and dance, and we have to let her do it because we've been told everything is fine and let her carry on. But you still got in the back of your mind, you're still going to worry as a parent that something could go wrong. But you've just got to let them try and live as normal life as they can. When everything says that they're fine, then trust in their ability that they will sort of enjoy themselves and not hurt themselves, and just be there where you can. And just obviously, again, trampolines is something she can't go on, and probably we wouldn't let her go on one now. But we don't want her to miss out on stuff when she doesn't seem like she has to anymore, because she's actually walking, running, but she's doing everything else a toddler should do now, just a bit slower. In some cases, in other cases she's fine. Questions or comments or anything regarding this, or you're worried about anything to do with the parent side or want advice on anything that we're trying to do here and sort of raise awareness, then please get in touch. But if you are going through this, good luck, and thanks for watching.
Please try to ask for